The alien standing near the waterfall drinks the strange liquid, and upon drinking it, it makes his body decompose into pieces of DNA in contact with water. Stay until the end to find out what are the consequences of that. Tens of thousands of years later, two archaeologists from Earth named Dr. Elizabeth Shaw and Dr. Charlie Holloway find an ancient drawing in the cave that almost brings them to tears from fascination. They consider the drawing to be a map that shows them how to find the creators of humanity, engineers. The two of them come up with an idea to start their journey in a big space shuttle named Prometheus, and the expedition is funded by the industrialist Peter Weyland. They are guided by his daughter Meredith Vickers along with the android David. The whole crew travels throughout space in some kind of cryogenics-induced hibernation that lasts for 2 years. Well, at least they are definitely going to be fully rested for everything that follows. After waking up, the crew begins talking to each other for the first time after 2 years. The pilot even sets up a Christmas tree to celebrate the holidays. Afterward, all of them gather up for a briefing, and Weyland tells them their next steps and introduces the humanoid robot David as his son, who is, allegedly, immortal. Continue watching if you want to find out if that is really true. Dr. Shaw and Dr. Holloway also present their discoveries to the rest of the group, who seem as if they do not believe in their theory of the existence of engineers. Moments after finishing their speech, David invites them to a meeting with Vickers, who also shows doubts about their theory. But not just that, she additionally forbids them to make any contact with the engineers without her approval. Well, now this is controversial. How could they make contact with engineers if they don't exist, as Vickers suggests? Is Vickers trying to hide something and purposely stop their investigation? Soon after that, the captain announces the landing of a ship, and medics inform the crew that oxygen levels are low on the planet they are landing on. Furthermore, they need adequate suits. If you thought that Vickers' behavior is weird, take a look at David, who puts on a suit as well even if he doesn't need one. Holloway notices this and asks David about it, and David tells him that he just doesn't want to stand out. Vickers and David have to be under the watchful eye. It looks like they are up to something. During their exploration, they find structures that are in perfect shapes and in straight lines. Additionally, they also discover that the air is breathable in some locations, and eventually all of them take off their helmets. Of course, that is not as intriguing as it gets. Just wait to see what they found in a nearby cave. They discover the beheaded weird creature that is supposedly an alien. If you have eaten before watching, this scene can make you sick to the stomach. Absolutely bizarre. Also, they find some texts on the wall. One of the members starts panicking, and the crew splits into two groups. The first one who comes back to the ship, and the second one, including Shaw, Holloway, Ford, and David, who continue the research. While they are walking, they come across a vast rock humanoid head and plenty of stones on the ground, as well as a few more alien corpses. Despite the warning, David touches the dark liquid coming out of the stone. The air begins changing fastly, so they proceed to collect the alien's head for further analysis. David takes one of the stones to his bag unnoticed. Meanwhile, the pilot informs the whole crew about the incoming storm and orders them to come back to the ship. They seem to be in trouble. Do you think that they are going to come back in time? Fortunately, they succeed, but, merely, 2 members of the group are not able to find a way out of the cave, so they need to stay there until the storm passes. Good luck, guys. We all know what happens to guys who get lost in movies like this one. Shockingly, the alien head turns out to be the helmet, and when they lift it, then they find a humanoid head under it. It looks like it's an alien from the beginning. The team proceeds to study the head and even bring it to life briefly. It turns out that even Vickers doesn't believe David, as she attacks him for not telling her about the conversation David had with Weyland earlier. David admits that Weyland came up with a plan to test the side effects of human contact with the strange black liquid they collected. David proceeds to put the liquid in Holloway's drink without him noticing it. Meanwhile, Shaw discovers that humans share the same DNA as an alien, meaning that the creature they found is indeed an engineer, the creator of humanity. If you notice that some characters are behaving strangely, especially Vickers, you are not alone. Captain also realizes Vickers' strange behavior and asks her if she is a robot. She then invites him to her room, leaving the control room empty. Now, this can have some negative consequences. Let's see what happens. An unusual snake-like creature emerges from the cave and attacks 2 members of the squad, killing them both eventually. Unfortunately, nobody can hear them and help them as the control room is empty. How unsettling and sad. The next day, Holloway notices possible side effects of the black liquids as his eyes start reddening, and on top of that, the captain announces the disappearance of 2 members, and everybody immediately starts to search for them. However, David has another mission of researching signs of life that they detected earlier in the cave. In accordance with Vickers, David attaches a camera to his suit to be able to show her anything he sees. Finally, when David enters the room that is allegedly an engineer's ship, he immediately detaches the camera. He finds out that the engineer's ship is heading toward Earth. David comes across one of the engineers who is in hibernation. As time passes and suspense builds in the air, the question just arises, is it time to test David's immortality? At the same time, the crew finds out the corpses of their squad members, and suddenly Holloway collapses and his condition worsens. The snake emerges once again and kills one more human just before leaving. After hearing about that, Vickers orders everyone to come back to the ship except Holloway's, as his condition poses a threat to the rest of the crew. Shaw tried to help Holloway, but Vickers burnt him to death with a flamethrower and Shaw faints immediately. She wakes up on a table to David telling her that she is 3 months pregnant and that her fetus is of a different kind. David suggests that it's the best option to put her in hibernation until they come back to Earth. The most intriguing thing about this situation is that Shaw is infertile. She disagrees with David's idea and, on the contrary, asks him to immediately help her take out the creature from her. But David declines as there are no people around who are capable of that. He puts her to sleep with a syringe, but she somehow manages to escape from the table and decides to perform surgery herself afterward. Unexpectedly, she succeeds and even manages to lock the creature up in that room. Merely, one of the crew members, Fifield, appears, although mutated and consumed by the black liquid, and he attacks and kills some of the crew members. Luckily, Janet, the captain, attacks him with the flamethrower while other ones crush him with a vehicle. If you were amazed by this, just wait to see what happens next. During that, Shaw comes across a room and enters it, and finds Weyland and David in it. It turns out that Weyland is also a part of the crew, and he tells her that he believes in her theory and that's the reason he decided to fund the whole expedition. Weyland thinks he can live forever with the help of engineers. Afterward, the captain tries to dissuade Shaw from her plans, telling her that the destination they are in is a military facility rather than a home of the engineers. However, he doesn't manage to persuade her to come back to Earth. On the other hand, Vickers tries to convince her father not to go meet the alien because it can be dangerous and death is inevitable and normal. Easier said than done. He doesn't listen and proceeds to continue his plan. Upon coming near the hibernating engineer, David wakes him up and everybody starts asking him questions, but surprisingly the engineer decapitates David. Not a pleasant sight at all. The engineer kills everyone in the area except Shaw, who runs away. Vickers watches everything from the ship and decides to abort the mission, and Yannick starts preparing Prometheus for takeoff. The engineer also prepares his spacecraft and continues with the plan to travel to Earth. According to Shaw, engineers plan to destroy the Earth using dark liquid because engineers hate human beings. Do you believe that they can prevent that? Captain has a very difficult choice in front of him. He could either choose to escape or crash into the engineer's ship and stop him. He decides to do the second one, as he listens to Shaw, and that collision makes a huge explosion. Somehow, Vickers manages to get out from the ship using the escape pod, and she watches the collision along with Shaw. Shaw dodges falling particles of the two ships, but Vickers is not able to do so and she dies. Shaw is the only Prometheus crew member alive, and as she struggles to breathe she enters one of the lifeboats. David's head informs her that an engineer is coming for her and that she needs to leave. It is too late for that, by the way, and the engineer attacks her, but she opens the room where she locked her offspring and it attacks the engineer, helping her escape. After that, she helps David retrieve his remains, and the two team up to finish their mission as they enter the new ship controlled by David. The ending scene is rather unsettling and bizarre as it shows an alien creature emerging from the engineer, meaning that encounters between humans and aliens are not ended yet. What was your favorite scene from today's video? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe to see our upcoming videos.